Do you remember the first time you realized that money could feel like freedom? Not just the fleeting thrill of a paycheck or the temporary satisfaction of a purchase, but the quiet, almost shocking sense that a number in an account could change how you move through the world. If you care too much, you know that feeling all too wealthy mix of relief and anxiety. The urge to do more, to plan better, to make sure nothing slips through your fingers. Hitting $250,000 invested is one of those moments. It's not just money. It's a psychological turning point. A threshold where security begins to feel real, where choices become less reactive, and where the patterns of overcare you've carried for so long start to meet possibility. The first thing you notice when you reach this milestone is subtle. It's in the way your mind stops racing for a fraction of a second. The emergencies that once felt imminent now feel manageable. Behavioral science calls this a shift in perceived control. Your brain's stress centers, the amygdala, the insula, don't quiet entirely, especially if you are wired to care too much. But they recognize that your capacity to navigate life's uncertainties has grown. That $250,000 isn't just an accumulation of money. It is a signal to your nervous system that you've earned space to breathe, to think, to plan intentionally, rather than constantly reactively. And yet, for those of us who overcare, freedom is not simple. It comes wrapped in questions we've always avoided. Am I doing enough? Could I be helping more? What if something goes wrong? Even with $250,000 invested, the instinct to protect, to anticipate every possible outcome, to overgive, these don't vanish overnight. Neuroscience shows that the brain's threat detection circuits, once hyperactivated by scarcity, now have to recalibrate to abundance. This is a subtle, internal process. You may find yourself thinking, worrying, planning, and suddenly realizing that these patterns, long ingrained, no longer serve you in the same way. This is the hidden, almost cinematic weight of reaching this milestone. The world outside feels safer, but the world inside is suddenly more visible. Reaching $250,000 also changes the way you see risk. And for someone who cares too much, this is profound. Before, every financial decision carried the emotional weight of survival, not just for yourself, but for everyone you felt responsible for. Now, the lens shifts. You begin to understand that calculated risk can coexist with empathy. You can invest in growth, in opportunities, in yourself, without feeling that you are neglecting your duties to others. This is where financial milestones intersect with psychology. Your care, once reactive and overwhelming, begins to meet intent. You start to see the difference between being responsible and being compulsively protective. The healthy side of this milestone is empowering. With $250,000 invested, you gain options that were previously impossible. You can pause before saying yes. You can choose how to give, when to step back, and when to invest in your own growth. Behavioral science calls this the liberation of cognitive load. Reduction, with fewer survival concerns dominating your attention. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that plans, reasons, and weighs consequences, can function more clearly. The energy that was once consumed by constant vigilance is now available for strategy, reflection, and intentional care. The difference is subtle but life-altering, but there is also a shadow. People who care too much can interpret this newfound freedom as a call to overcompensate. I must invest more. I must protect more. I must care more. The very milestone that is supposed to liberate you can become a new source of pressure if it is not met with self. This is the paradox of abundance for the overcaring mind. Security triggers responsibility, and responsibility can trigger compulsion. The key is noticing this pattern without judgment, and learning to allow boundaries, rest, and self-trust to coexist with care. $250,000 is as much a psychological challenge as it is a financial achievement. It asks, will you let yourself be free, or will you continue to carry the world on your shoulders? Cinematically, the impact of reaching this milestone is subtle but profound. It is in the quiet moments, the pause before checking your accounts, the first night you sleep without financial anxiety tugging at the edge of your mind, the way your thoughts begin to stretch beyond immediate survival into possibility. You begin to see the compounding effects of discipline, foresight, and emotional resilience. You realize that money is not a burden, but a lens through which to understand your patterns of care, your capacity for foresight, and your relationship to yourself. It allows you to see that security is not about doing everything for everyone. It is about doing enough for yourself to choose how to give and how to care. Emotionally, this milestone delivers a subtle epiphany. Caring too much is not a flaw, it is a trait that, when tempered by strategy and awareness, becomes a superpower. $250,000 invested shows you that you can prioritize your own stability without guilt, that your care does not require depletion, and that financial security is a vehicle for intentional living. The number itself is not magical. The meaning you derive from it, the trust in yourself it cultivates, is what transforms your experience. For someone who overcares, this is revolutionary. It is a bridge from compulsion to intentionality, from reaction to choice, from exhaustion to empowerment. And here lies the deepest truth. Milestones like $250,000 are not just numbers, they are mirrors. They show us who we have been, who we are capable of becoming, and how we can align care with freedom. They illuminate patterns that have driven anxiety, perfectionism, and over-responsibility, while simultaneously showing the potential for balance, trust, and thoughtful generosity. The money itself is a tool, but the psychological shift it enables is priceless. You begin to understand that true security is not just financial, it is the freedom to care without losing yourself, to act with empathy without being consumed, to plan with clarity without being paralyzed. So tonight, as you reflect on this milestone, ask yourself this: if you could view $250,000 invested not as a number or an endpoint, but as a threshold into intentional freedom, how would your care transform? What responsibilities would you release, and which would you choose deliberately? Because the quiet, transformative truth is this: reaching this milestone changes everything. Not because the money itself is magic, but because it reveals that you are capable of caring deeply, acting wisely, and living intentionally without being weighed down by compulsion. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.